Evening, folks. Welcome to your Week 12 update. I am your commish, coming at you from beautiful New Rochelle, New York. Well, we had quite the week this week, as you guys can see. Your commish lost to Cole. Didn't really mean anything. Ryan took a nice win over Coyle. Did help him out a little bit. Jensen with a statement win, broke 200 over Sokol, who put up an impressive 188. McAllen needed that win over Casey to keep up with Troy. Troy also needed that win with Jack to keep ahead of McAllen. And finally, McGrath took the win over TJ and guaranteed himself a place in the playoffs. Now, let's all take a look at this week's power rankings. Obviously, your commish is still the perennial favorite. Jensen had a nice statement win this week and moved up the number 2 spot. Cole secured his number 2 spot in the AVA division, is locked in at number 3. Jack, who's the only person that can catch Jensen, is locked in at 4. Sokol, who's going to be at number 5, is going to play in that 2-3 delaying game depending on what happens in week 13. Ryan, although he's at number 6, needs a win to be in. McGrath has already clinched his spot in the playoffs. Troy, facing Casey this week, has the matchup he wants, falls to number 8. TJ, with a tough loss this week, falls out of the bracket and into number 9. McAllen, still at 10, needs some help from Casey this week and a win himself. And then finally, Coyle and Casey at the bottom, per usual, per the way it's been for the last 12 weeks. Now, let's jump right into this week's bracket. As I said before, I'm at 1, Cole's at 2, McGrath's at 3, locked in the playoffs. Not necessarily at 3, but in the playoffs. And Ryan McAllen's at 4. TJ on the outs at number 5. On the other side, Jensen's at 1. Sokol's currently at 2, but that could easily change this week. Jack is at number 3, but he could be bumped up to number 1. And Troy's at number 4. McAllen, a game behind Troy, with the tiebreaker victory, looking for Troy to lose this week. Let's take a look at our matchups. Week 13 matchups. Here we go. Your commission, McGrath, doesn't matter. Troy, like I said before, needs that win over Casey. If he wins, he's in. If he loses, he's going to need some help from Sokol, who's taking on McAllen. Tough matchup for McAllen if he wants to get into the playoffs. TJ and Ryan are game of the week. Winner in, loser out. I'll explain why in a minute. Cole and Coyle over here, nice brotherly battle, but it really means nothing. And finally, Jack and Jensen. Winner gets that number 1 spot in the playoffs on the Dillian side. Now, let's take a look at our tiebreaker scenarios to explain how it's all going to fill out. Here we are. Don't pay attention to anything in these numbers in the corners. They don't mean shit. Well, as I explained last week, you look at your team, look at the number next to the opponent, and if it's negative, you lose the tiebreaker. If it's positive, you win that tiebreaker. So, Ryan currently owns the tiebreaker over both McGrath and TJ. However, he's playing TJ this week, and TJ currently has about a 102-point window to give. That means that if TJ wins this week, they will share head-to-head tiebreakers, and TJ will win by virtue of points for. McGrath, on the other hand, owns tiebreakers over Ryan, and he's even with TJ. But TJ can only catch him; he can't beat him. So if he ends up in a 3-way tie with TJ and Ryan, he owns that tiebreaker. Now, finally, TJ loses the tiebreaker to Ryan, but like I said, if he wins this week, he'll beat him by virtue of points for. He's even with McGrath, so it really doesn't matter. Ryan, you in, you win. You win, you're in. TJ, you win, you're in. Should be a nice matchup. On the other side, in the Dillian side, Jensen currently owns the tiebreaker over Sokol, but not over Jack. Luckily, he plays Jack again this week. If he wins, they'll be even by virtue of head-to-head, and they'll have to go to points. In terms of points, Jack is about 87, 88 point victor, 89 point victor. So, no, it doesn't matter. He's got a game ahead of him. So if he loses both the head-to-head and the points. Jensen moved down to number 2. Sokol moved down to number 3. Jack moves up to that number 1 spot. Sokol loses the tiebreaker to both Jensen and Jack. No matter what, you're going to be in the 3 spot, maybe the 2 spot. If Jack loses and you win, you never know. Our final spot in the playoffs: Troy and McAllen. Team John, Troy, currently loses that head-to-head tiebreaker with McAllen. Therefore, he needs to win and/or for McAllen to lose, and he's in. McAllen needs to win and some help from his good pal Pat Casey to beat Troy to win the whole fucking thing. If he does that, he's in the playoffs, and all is right with the world. If not, Don will probably disown him. All right. That was your Week 12 update. I'm your commish. I'll post the power rankings online as well. Godspeed.